Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Monday, March the 3rd, 2025. And big weekend of boxing. Unfortunately, I didn't see it all. I'll get to the ones I did see, but if you watch his channel, you knew that you know that I was opening my pub and pretty much worked all weekend. And I saw most of it. I saw the Saturday night show. I saw on replay the Lamont Roach Gervonta Davis fight, which I'll get to. But a lot of the other stuff, I see Sabril Matthias was in action. And of course, we had the undercard of the other shows. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see all that. Some highlights, but probably not enough to give a educated opinion. But I will comment, of course, on the Davis and Roach fight, which was pretty controversial, wasn't it? I'll give my views on that. But Saturday night, did see most of that, 90% of the main event, and enough of the other fights to give a review. It was hard because I was in and out and busy and everything else. But it was interesting with the Liam Wilson and not Billy Dibb, almost could have been the Billy Dibb fight. I think he would have loved to have got in there and had a crack at Liam. But the Liam Wilson and Yousef Dibb fight and the fallout of that sort of still continues. Look, on the night, I thought both guys were courteous and respectful enough just to satisfy all the fans out there and all the parties involved, because it's normally a tradition, as much as, you know, there's a lot of build up to the fight and a lot of angst, a lot of anger, a lot of spite, whatever you might want to, just got something like there. As much as there is a sort of tradition after the fights that you be respectful, okay, and you shake hands and you have a little talk in the centre of the ring, but sometimes when the dust settles, that doesn't settle with it and it continues on. And even after the fight, I thought Liam Wilson was good. When I say after the fight, I'm talking about in the change rooms, not in the ring afterwards. I think they both had their kids up in the ring. I'm still not sure I'm a big fan of that, but anyway, that's people's opinion. Covered in blood and sweat and all that sort of stuff. They tend to get the kids up there, whatever, each to their own. But they did all that and it seemed like it was all good. But then when they got to the change rooms, Liam Wilson was interviewed and he looked banged up, didn't he? He looked really banged up. He had a swollen nose and I think he had a couple of stitches in there and his eyes were all cut and marked up. So, he took a lot of punishment in the fight. Some unnecessary punishment, but I think I covered that yesterday. I think he's got a lot to work on with that. But the Dibbs, still you could tell, weren't quite prepared to let sleeping dogs lie. And look, it's always the way. I mean, Liam Wilson won the fight, so he's going to say, let's just put it to bed. I couldn't care less. He's got 2 wins over Yousef now, so he'll move on. But they interviewed Yousef and Billy. Billy, he made some okay points. He said, look, you know, a true champion doesn't, or an ambassador for Australian boxing, there's kids watching, they don't do what he did when Yousef went down and gyrated over him. And I didn't condone that either, by the way, but, you know, and doesn't carry on like he did. And I don't know, in a perfect world, that would be the case, Billy. But in this day and age, we see all sorts of antics, don't we, of fighters. And I think Liam Wilson's actually probably one of the more subdued sort of types, really. I mean, he's a gentleman, really. I know this fight got a little bit out of hand with the build-up and everything, but overall, Liam's a gentleman and always conducts himself very, very professionally. So I think Liam is a good ambassador, regardless of what happened the other night. Yousef did say in his opinion, the low blow was deliberate. I don't agree. I've been in that situation myself, and there's sometimes your head might get pulled down a little bit. The angle of the guy coming in, just the timing of the punch. I don't think he did anything untoward. I don't think he deliberately hit him low. It just happens. It's very, very rare you get someone who deliberately hits someone low, especially like that late in the fight. I mean, the last thing you're really interested in is doing something like that. Maybe early in the fight, sometimes you see fighters who'll deliberately foul other fighters just to get in their head or get an edge over them, or just because the heat of the moment and the adrenaline, all that sort of stuff. But late in the fight, Liam would have known he was winning the fight, by the way. So I don't buy that he deliberately hit him low. He had nothing to gain. As I said, the heat of the fight was out of it by that stage. Both fighters were just in survival mode, trying to get through the fight. It was a brutal fight. So I don't read anything into that at all. I don't think Liam did it deliberately. And I think if you watch it closely, you can see that his eyes weren't on that area. I think he just instinctively threw the left rip to the body. It was just the timing and the angle and everything that was involved, and it just happened to hit him low. But he did the right thing by taking a knee. You know, it took his 5 minutes, whatever it was. Don't sort of buy that it was as bad as what he was saying, if I'm being honest. I mean, I had, 100 amateur fights and probably 5,000 spars and hit low numerous times. I mean, I don't want to sort of talk about myself here, but I remember in my Olympic qualifying fight, the fight that actually qualified me for the Olympics, the fighter I fought actually got disqualified for hitting me low about 6 times, and they were big shots below. And yeah, I played it up a little bit because that's what you do. I didn't go down or anything, but I did play it up that it hurt. But in reality, when you got that protector on, you don't really feel that much, if I'm being honest. Just my opinion, just from experience. But I'm not calling Yousef a liar or anything. I'm just saying I don't think it might have been as bad as what it looked, and certainly didn't think it was deliberate. But anyway, just my 2 cents. But good to see at least that both boys come out of the fight healthy and ready to go again. I do agree with Liam in that he hopes Yousef Dib hangs around. I think by all accounts he will. I think these days the thought is if you lose a fight that your career's over. Nah, certainly not. Yousef, I thought, fought a really, really good fight. And no doubt, no limit, Nose Boxing will have him back anytime. He's some good fights out there for him. Some really good fights. Maybe there's the John Manu fight. How good a fight would that be? Some good fights there. So anyway, I'm sure he'll get some other opportunities. On to the fights yesterday. This is probably the one you're all commenting on, and this is the Tank Davis and Lamont Roach fight. Look, it was a hell of a lot better fight than what I thought it would be. It was a good fight. And when I say a good fight, I'm not talking about the rock'em sock'em type of fights like the Wilson and Dib fight. I'm talking about 2 very, very good fighters who both can box. They can both punch. Well, punch to some extent anyway. But both very, very good fighters. A tactical match. Both had really good success with their punches. Both landed good shots. Both won rounds. Both lost rounds, as you do, I suppose, in a fight, don't you? But I thought it was a very, very good tactical fight. Now, the big controversy is the 9th round when Tank took a knee. Now, it's by the rules. Now, when I was watching, I did obviously know the results. So I knew what was coming. I'd seen a lot of the comments and everything about it because I didn't watch it live. But I knew what was coming and I was watching for it. And when you first see it, it's like, well, what the hell happened? Even though I knew what was going to happen, I would put myself in the position of if I was watching it live and I was, what the hell did I just see then? Because it didn't look like a punch landed. I know there was some commentators or reporters, whatever out there, said they thought a punch landed. And if it did, it was very, very slight. It really was. I just thought, I thought he might have been injured. Because he looked like, I don't know whether he hurt his hand or whatever happened, but it didn't look like he got hit. But he went down. Now, apparently afterwards he did say, this is the weirdest thing, he said he got his hair done a day or 2 before the fights and he had some grease in his hair or something and it got in his eyes. He obviously didn't know the rules. He's a very, very lucky boy because he didn't know the rules and he backed off. He got it in his eyes. This is what he's saying anyway. And he took a quick knee. Look, it was lightning quick. It's not like he went down and just sort of wanted a rest. I think it looked like he almost quickly took a knee and then quickly got up and then went back to his corner. They wiped his face, which is a no-no as well, going back to the corner in the as the round is progressing. So that was really strange. But Steve Willis or whatever his name is, the referee, really, or did he drop the ball or did he play common sense? Because by the rules, if you take a knee, it's an automatic 8 count. Now, normally when you take a knee, though, it's because you've, you might be injured or something, or you've been hit to the body or whatever it might be, and you get the automatic 8 count. I think Steve Willis, or call him Willis, I can't remember if it's Wills or Willis, but Steve Willis took the common sense approach, knew that he hadn't been hit, knew that he wasn't hurt, knew that, I don't think he knew that he wasn't injured because I think he asked him what's going on. But when he took the knee, he went back, he said, Tank, mate, you can't do that. If you take a knee, next you should be getting a count. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he did say, hey, Tank, you can't do that, mate. And the common sense approach was taken and he let him get back into action. So it's isolation, I think it was the right call, but to the letter of the law, if you take an 8 count, then it is an automatic, sorry, if you take a knee, it's an automatic 8 count. So that is the, oh, we might cross the road here because I've got some tradies that are working. We might just get past them, I think. So, hang on, come here, buddy. So that was the interesting one. Look, it depends on how you view it. Yeah, hang on, come on, buddy. Let's go. Tradies everywhere there. Come on, come here. All right, we'll get past. All right, I think we're good. Well done, Neil. Dogs and tradies and everything in there. Now we've got kids playing in the front yard. But anyway, but yeah, so it depends on how you see it. Look, sometimes, do you sometimes have to take the common sense approach, or do you have to say, even though your knee hit the canvas for probably literally a second, do you still have to give them the 8 count? Now, I've got a feeling that 99% of you guys and girls out there will say, nope, he should have got the count. I don't know. But look, what it did do in the end was decide the fight, because it was obviously a draw. And that there, with the point not being taken off, cost Lamont Roach the fight. Now, the other thing is, the judges, or as far as I know, unless things have changed in the last few years or decades, whatever it's been, normally it is at the judge's discretion whether they award a 10-8 round, whether it be a knockdown or whatever it might be. Point deduction is different. But in that case, even if he had given him a count, would the judges have said, no, well, okay, technically you had to give him a count, that's fine, but we don't have to give it a 10-8 round? Because after he got up, he pretty much dominated the rest of the round. Now, up to that point, it was pretty close. But after that, it's like he got a bit of an adrenaline rush, and he really went after Lamont Roach. And I thought dominated the rest of the round. So that complicates things even more. But geez, I don't know. It's an interesting call. As I said, I would have just went for the common sense approach, not given it a 10-8 round. Maybe actually I would have, let's have a little closer. Maybe yes, okay, maybe officially give him the 8 count, but don't give it a 10-8 round, which then doesn't decide the fight. How's that sound? Because I know, look, sometimes they do it in the amateurs as well. They'll give you a count, but it doesn't affect the scoring. It's purely to give you a rest. Now, I know it's pros versus amateurs and everything else, but it'd be interesting to look into that and see how that officially works. If you do get an 8 count for whatever reason, it is just an automatic 10-8 round the other way. This probably gets back to a little bit of what I was talking about the other day, with maybe the point system having to be cleaned up. Don Majeski talked about the other day, there has to be more flexibility in the scoring. So not this just, it's 10-10 if it's even, 10-9 if one person wins it, no matter how clearly they win it. If there's no knockdowns or anything, it's just a 10-9 round. If there's a knockdown, it's 10-8. If there's 2, there's 10-7. There needs to be more clarification. Probably yesterday was a great example of that as well. You know, maybe there is the 10-8 round, but you might lose half a point or something. I don't know. I'm just sort of throwing things out. But either way, I've spent too much time on it. But it's an interesting case study when this sort of stuff happens. How do you see it? And I suppose when you look at it, as I said, most of you YouTube watchers out there will probably agree that no, that is the law or the rules. It must be adhered to. But anyway, each to their own. But as for the fight itself, look, I thought that it was an even fight. I've had a few people comment on it and send me messages and all this sort of stuff and their theories. Look, I don't think it was a rip-off. I don't think it was a robbery. I think it was close enough. I actually had it scored a draw. Again, I know that with the point taken off for the knock, if they did take the knockdown, it would have swung Roach's way. But the fight was close enough that a draw for me is fine. I just thought so many close rounds. I thought the way you scored the fight, or the way you look at a fight and score the fight, was so open to interpretation. I thought both guys had a lot of success. I was surprised that Lamont Roach was as big, or looked as big as he did. I thought that, Tank Davis is small, but he's still a division above Lamont Roach, but he looked the bigger guy. And I was really impressed with the way Lamont Roach took centre ring a lot of the time. He stood there with Tank, but he stood there and he countered Tank. That's what I liked. He stuck the jab out there and waited for Tank to retaliate. Then he countered him and did it really, really well. Tank had some good success as well. I like the double up left hands that he threw. He had some good moments with that. But I just thought both guys just had some good moments. And I just think the fact that a fighter got so close to Tank and made him look not as good as he normally does, and maybe that's an indication of the inactivity catching up with Tank. Doesn't fight nearly as often as he should, and maybe that caught up with him. But I just think maybe he underestimated Lamont Roach. Maybe Roach just simply fought out of his skin on the night. I don't know, but I just can't agree with a lot of the commentators out there saying that it was just a robbery. Just because the fighter you think doesn't get the decision doesn't mean it's a robbery. This was close. This was a really close fight. I think even the commentators might have had Tank up by a point going into the last round. I'm pretty sure they gave, I'm not sure I actually hung around for the scorecards, but I think they had it a draw as well. I just think sometimes people just get with this robbery thing. They say, well, the fighter I thought won by 1 point or 2 points didn't get it, so it's an out-and-out robbery. Just not the case. There has been some obviously blatant examples of robberies, but yesterday wasn't one of them. Yeah, look, if Roach had got the decision, I would have said, yep, okay, well done, Roach. If Davis had got it, then no problems at either. And I think the draw, the scorecards, by the way, were 115, 113 for Davis, so 7 rounds to 5, and the other two had it 6 rounds apiece. So that obviously shows you with that quote-unquote knockdown or whatever it was, would have decided the fight. But I think that the thing is now, though, is that Davis should give Lamont Roach a rematch. Now, he's already said after the fight he's not going to do that. He's going to move on. Did mention something about Jake Paul. I'm not even going to comment on that because that is just ridiculous. Can you imagine the size difference in that fight, or quote-unquote fight, event, we'll call it. But if he doesn't get that fight, I've got a feeling that Lamont Roach might have just fought his way into some bigger fights. Now, maybe if they can't get the Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson fight across the line, maybe Turki Al-Sheikh comes knocking and says, well, we might put Lamont Roach in with Shakur Stevenson. That would be a lot different fight, by the way. I'm not sure that would be as entertaining as yesterday's fight was. But still, you might reward him with a payday. Maybe we might see Roach in with as a petter in a final eliminator or whatever it might be. But I've got a feeling he'll be in line for some bigger fights and deserves it. He fought really, really well yesterday, a lot better than what I thought he would. I was pretty sceptical about the whole fight. I thought Tank would chop him down pretty easily. Maybe he might even go back down to 130 and fight a unification with Navarrete or a Shaki Foster or someone like that. So anyway, some good options there for him. He didn't seem too distressed after the fight. I think he realised that he'd fought a great fight. Didn't get a loss, which is always a bonus. And I think he knows that he's going to get some good paydays going forward. So, yeah, really, really good fight yesterday. On the undercard, I've only seen highlights of it, but I was surprised. Well, not surprised that Russell beat Valenzuela. I was probably surprised with the ease in which he did it. It was a really clear-cut, conclusive decision. I thought Valenzuela, especially after his performance against Pitbull, might have showed a little bit more, but unfortunately not, and was overwhelmed by Russell. Hopefully at some stage I'll get a chance to watch that fight in its entirety, but I only watched the replay yesterday. The other one was Sabriel Matias. He had was it an 8th round knockout of Gabriel, what was his name? Valenzuela as well, wasn't it? Gabriel Valenzuela, Mexican. Anyway, again, just saw the highlights of that last night. So he's already talking. He wants to fight. It's a little bit of an interesting thing at the moment in the 140-pound division. There's this thing between, you got Paro, Cambosis, Hitchens, and now Matias. Because Matias is now saying he wants Richardson Hitchens, whereas it almost seems like we had the George Cambosis Hitchens fight lined up for later in the year. Still got to get past Jordan, of course, but I think we all know he'll do that. So now Matias has said he wants Hitchens, then he wants Paro, and then you've got George saying, well, he wants Hitchens and then Paro, and then you've got Hitchens saying he wants Lopez and maybe Cambosis. It's all happening. So look, what it does add up to, though, is some great fights going forward in the 140-pound division. So no matter how it turns out, I think one is that Liam Paro and George Cambosis will be in the thick of it. George, of course, has got to get past Jordan. You would think that Paro will have to have at least one sort of comeback fight, but if he can, so especially if Matias, maybe if he gets a shot at a belt you would think that he'd have Liam Paro in his sights. So you'd think if Liam can win a couple of fights, he'll be back in the mix there. And as I said, if George can get through March 22, he will be in line as well. So heaps of good stuff happening there. I did say the other day as well, guys, the unfortunate thing with the Tyson Pedro situation where those fighters haven't been paid. There hasn't been an official statement from the promoters yet. There has been some social media back and forth with people that are commenting on it. But if it is the case, really, really bad. And apparently the Chris Terzeski situation, remember that when he pulled out on the day of the fight, of the Tyson Pedro fight, apparently by all accounts, they pulled out because they offered him, I think they're supposed to put money in his account leading up to the fight. They didn't do it. On the day of the fight, they offered him half as much. This is all what I'm sort of reading, but again, it's hard because there's been no comeback from the promoter. But apparently on the day of the fight, he was offered half as much and a new contract was put in front of him, and he said, well, you can stick that where the sun don't shine. Got on a plane and went home. Unfortunately, the opponent the other night didn't have that luxury. He didn't know anything about it. He just thought he was going to get his $60,000, which is close to $100,000 Australian. So it's a good payday. Now, by all accounts, the event wasn't a massive success financially wise. So hence why they said, well, we're just not going to pay you. There has to be some provisions, if this is true, that they can be forced to pay the money in some way. Now, it's hard when you get an overseas fighter from a poor country who not much backing, not much representation, gets ripped off. Not a lot normally that can happen, but there's got to be something in Australia. The combat board needs to have a bit more power. Now, whether they, going forward with these types of fights, where they've got to do what they do in America with those escrow accounts, where the money has to be put in the account prior to the event and no one can touch the money. It's there. And they have someone, a legal representative that oversees it all, and they distribute the money. Maybe we need something like that here, because that situation really hurts Australian boxing. It really does. The reputation of Australia, it's hard enough, a lot of people with fighters overseas with the decisions that take place here in Australia, but also with this, doesn't do us any favours about trying to get fighters over here to fight our guys and girls. So not a great situation. Let's hope it pans out. I really want to hear a response from the promoter. There's no use commenting or responding to people on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it might be, and saying there's, you haven't heard both sides of the story and whatever. Tell us the other side of the story. I would like to know what exactly happened and why these guys haven't been paid. Now, it's a case of, well, we're just waiting for final ticket receipts or some payment from Stan Sports or whatever it might be. Well, just tell us. No drama. People just want to hear the truth. Well, at least not really the truth, just their side of the story, because we don't really know exactly who's telling the truth. But either way, these guys haven't been paid, and that is a travesty on Australian boxing, and we need some clarification on what's happened, because not a great look for that company. And you would think that company won't be around much longer if they don't pay their fighters. Overseas fighters won't come here. Domestic fighters won't fight on their cards. Not great. And I know a lot of people said that Tyson Pedro wasn't really complicit in it all. He's innocent. Well, apparently he's part of the promotional company himself, and has known full well what's going on. I've just got a feeling that ticket sales weren't great, and what's the easiest way to save some money and not lose money on the event? And that is just to withhold the purse of the fighters, which, as a former promoter myself, really ticks me off, because the first thing I always did was pay the fighters. And if I took a loss, I took a loss, but you always pay the fighters. But anyway, we will see what happens in due course. So guys, that's going to do it today. I was going to comment on, I had a YouTube comment the other day asking about the relevance of the sanctioning bodies these days. I might get that to that tomorrow, where the WBA, WBC, WBO and IBF sort of rank in the scheme of things and how they've evolved over the years and their importance and everything else. I'll touch on that tomorrow anyway. But for today, hope you have a great Monday, and we will catch you tomorrow.